Right from the beginning of the 2026 World Cup, almost everyone had France as the clear favourites to win the trophy. The squad is too stacked and the team is just too perfect. And when the tournament started, they looked even more dangerous and threatening. It seemed like nothing could stop this team from reaching their third final in a row. Mbappé was in typical goal-scoring form, Olise could not stop creating, and Dembélé refused to be sidelined. They looked totally unplayable from game one. Well, until they met Spain. Not only did they lose to the Spaniards, they were humbled, dismantled, and some would say emasculated. The monsters looked toothless for once. At no point did they look like making anything of the game. They were outplayed, outcoached, and outmaneuvered. The display from France in that semi-final game shocked a lot of people, and it has had people asking what the hell happened. Well, we too find ourselves asking that same question, and we're here to address it. These are 8 things we were shocked to see from France at this World Cup. First of all, they appeared to have no plan B. This didn't seem like a problem from the beginning of the campaign because they always found themselves on the front foot in every single game at the tournament leading up to the semis. Between their opening group game and the quarter-final, France were never behind at any point, so they never really needed to resort to plan B. Plan A just always worked. But the first time they went behind in a game, the first time they needed to consult plan B, they failed. That was shocking to see. A team at this level, a team that had been in the last 2 World Cup finals, we thought we would see more from them. We expected a better response to adversity, and one reason they seemed to have no plan B in that game against Spain was because Deschamps had failed to really test the fringe players earlier in the tournament. Look at Luis de la Fuente, for example. He tried a lot of things in the earlier parts of the tournament. Almost every outfield player was used from the group stage to the quarter-final. This helped him to identify the players who could bail him out when he was in trouble. The likes of Pedro Porro, Alex Baena, Dani Olmo and Mikel Merino did not start the tournament for Spain, but they turned out to be very useful, whether from the start or from off the bench in the knockout rounds for Spain. And this was possible because De La Fuente gave these other players chances all across the tournament. Deschamps, on the other hand, didn't really test the fringe players. The likes of Aklouche, Thuram, Mateta, Zaire Emery and Cherki barely got real opportunities throughout the tournament, so the coach simply didn't trust them to come in for the big boys when they were struggling in the semis. And that sort of feeds into our next point. You see, we've always known Deschamps to be a proactive coach, but he can also be intelligently reactive. He hardly sits there and lets games just pass him by. He makes sure to make ballsy moves and even take risks when necessary, but he simply did not take any risk against Spain. In the 2022 final, we saw him take a massive risk after France found themselves 2 goals down to Argentina. He took off Giroud and Dembélé in the first half and brought in Thuram and N'Golo Kante, 2 players who would end up being very instrumental in the comeback. Taking off 2 of your star attackers in the first half of the World Cup final was a massive risk, but he had the courage to take it, and it paid off massively. Yes, they eventually lost, but they were able to fight their way back into the match and make a game out of it, eventually only losing out on penalties. No such risks were taken this time around. The first half sub was forced because of an injury to Saliba, and the halftime sub was a rather safe one considering Rabiot was already on a yellow card. The Doué change before the hour mark was the one he had been doing all tournament, and he didn't take off any of his star attackers until the 72nd minute. There was simply no courage in the changes, no risk-taking, which we thought was necessary considering how poor France looked in that game. We were quite surprised to see that. And honestly, we were also shocked to see that France had no midfield at this tournament, particularly in that game against Spain. They were completely neutered by Spain in the middle of the park, and it made it difficult for them to create anything for their attackers. Yes, Spain will almost always have the better midfield on a football pitch, and they can dominate any team in the middle of the park, but it looked like France weren't even trying, and that was so shocking. With how much talent that is available to France, we were so surprised that that was the best they could do in the midfield.
Well, you've asked for it and we've finally delivered. Relive the glory days with the most iconic designs in football history. Whether you're a fan of classic club colours or legendary international strips, we've got something to ignite your nostalgia. Perfect for match days, casual wear or adding to your collection. Shop the new retro range now at goal90.shop. Massive discounts await.
And looking at that midfield display against Spain made it even more shocking that N'Golo Kante did not get a single minute all tournament. He might get a couple minutes in the 3rd place playoff, but it doesn't matter anymore now, does it? Even at age 35, Kante is a man who can offer you a whole lot in that midfield. He covers so much ground and can do the work of two players all by himself. Why Deschamps included him in the squad and didn't use him at all is something that will not stop being a massive surprise to us. Surely Spain would not have had it that easy at the middle of the pitch if Kante was on the pitch. He would have made life a little more difficult for them with his persistence and ability to pinch the ball off players, something which will always disturb the rhythm of any well-passing team. To keep a player of this caliber unused for 7 games at the highest level is just so shocking, especially when there's no other player in the squad who can do what he does. Something also needs to be said about France's defense. The way Spain broke them down to get that second goal was just too easy, way too easy. Yes, Spain are masters of short and quick passes, but the right back getting that much space in front of goal is something worth questioning. And you know what? Even the star-studded attack everyone speaks of seemed to be too reliant on Kylian Mbappé. Fans always said that if you marked Mbappé out of the game, the other superstar attackers would be able to win you games, but we barely saw that at this tournament. Mbappé opened the scoring in 5 of the 6 games that France played leading up to the semi-final, and in 3 of those games he also closed the scoring. So, essentially, France almost always waited on Mbappé to start the party before they joined in, and that looks to us like an overdependence. And well, overdependence on one player will always be a real cause for concern for any top team. And it is surprising that France have grown too dependent on Mbappé, considering the many star players and game winners that they have in their squad. Once again, look at Spain. Their best attacker is obviously Lamine Yamal, but they have shown that they are not too reliant on him, and that has really helped them. Goals have come from all around, and that has got them to the final. Finally, we think that game against Spain exposed that France have not properly replaced the old guard of Olivier Giroud, Antoine Griezmann and Paul Pogba. Nobody is sitting in the box winning headers, linking up and holding up play like Giroud did so expertly. Nobody is sitting at the base of midfield, turning players and pinging 60-yard-long balls for runners like Pogba often did. And nobody is linking midfield and attack with one-touch passes while also delivering accurate set pieces like Griezmann did. Olise did try with the Griezmann role, we'll admit, but in the end, it turns out that he doesn't quite measure up, especially against teams that don't afford you too much space. None of this seemed like a problem against the weaker opponents, but when they went up against their first good team at this World Cup, it became obvious that it is, and we were shocked by that. Anyway, it is now time to hear from you guys. What surprised you the most about this France team at the World Cup? What do you think went wrong with this superstar team? Get in the comments and talk to us. Also, tell us why you think they keep getting undone by Spain every time in recent years. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notifications so you never miss out on new content. Catch you in the next one. Bye.